This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, August 24th, 2023, and I've got the most excellent TK Bay on the show today. Hi, TK. How are you?
How you doing, Miriam? It's been some time, but I'm always happy to be back on the show. Thank you for
Dude, I
having me.
love having you on the show. It's always so delightful. So, I'm super excited because, wow, you have a phone that's unobtainium right now. I mean, for us, I could probably, hit up Spencer and get a device or MediaTek or somebody. But you have a phone in your hands, in your possession, that you made a YouTube video about that is really impossible or really hard to get in North America. The OnePlus Nord 3. I love the Nord series, and I'm talking about the original, not the CE or the N for North America. I'm talking about the real Nord, the one that Carl Pei gave us, the essentially what became nothing, right? Because the spirit of Phone 1 is really the spirit of the original Nord, in my opinion.
It is. Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that's how the Phone 1 started. It gave you that bang for the buck with that mid-ranger experience built in that you just couldn't believe existed.
Exactly. So tell us everything we need to know, because obviously I don't have one, and you've had a chance to use it for a while. Like, how does it compare, say, to the OnePlus 11 5G? How does how do you think it compares to that new Ace 2 Pro that has, that's like a flagship as well, but detuned kind of like the 10T was last year, and it should be the 11T this year. Tell us all the goodness.
So first I'll start by saying is the original spirit of what the Nord devices were originally put together is where we have it here, but it's taken to a second level that I really wasn't expecting. So I've seen the first Nord, the Nord 2, the Nord 2 CE, and then there's also obviously the OnePlus 11, the different series. And we've seen how OnePlus kind of shifted as well, going from releasing the Pro. We no longer have a Pro in the US market. We just have the 11 5G. When I picked up this device, in fact, first and foremost, it's powered by the Dimensity 9000. This is why we were talking about MediaTek. It's because it is a shift for Nord, going from a Qualcomm mid-range 7 series processor over to a Dimensity. But not only that, leaving the Dimensity, like the 1000 series, and going straight up to the flagship level.
I know, that's what I'm super excited about, right? Like, that's what makes this phone so interesting
Exactly.
to me.
Like, it does. When I said that in my video, it's like I had a hard time categorizing this phone, because when you first look at it, it's about a $400-$500 phone. It's not an expensive phone. It's not, for sure, it's not the price of what you pay for the 11. But you get the 16 gigs of RAM, the 256 gigs of internal storage, the 50 megapixel camera sensor, the Dimensity 9000, the large display, the 120 hertz, everything that we knew about what Nord was has been almost put to the side and said, hey, let's just bring down some of those OnePlus 11 features and give them to people at the OnePlus Nord price point. And I think that's what's the exciting part for me. And it didn't disappoint, honestly. Like, seriously, every single thing about this phone just hits the mark and goes even more. Even the connectivity in the US, like on T-Mobile, I was clocking in over 1,000 on the download speed, which is unheard of for an import. Typically, we don't get those
that's really
speeds.
great.
Yeah,
I mean, T-Mo is pretty accommodating, we have to say, though, right?
But when you hit the thousands, it's actually starting to leverage some of the Sprint bands, which is not even original T-Mobile bands.
Right, you're right.
So that was
mid-band.
the reason why I was excited. It's hitting the mid-band, and it was faster than my Moto Edge Plus 2023, and that's fully compatible for US carriers. This is an import, and it was like, nah, let me just shoot over that. So it was exciting. It is exciting, and it's a beautiful device. Luckily, I was able to get the green one. Flat display, some people will love that, some people may not, but I think it's great for gaming. High refresh rate, great speakers, and a built-in TV remote, something that we never see in the US market. Like, you can control your TV.
That's very much a Xiaomi
like
group thing. You see that on almost every Xiaomi phone, but usually not BBK group, right? So interesting.
Typically, like, rarely do we see that even show up. And I think noticing it initially when I saw the little sensor at the top, I'm like, wait a minute, did they put it? And then, and of course, the toggle, the notification toggle, the infamous toggle that disappeared at the end of last year.
It does have that. Yeah. So it's interesting,
the OP Classic, like the original.
They've kind of, from what you're describing, kept a lot of the original Nords, things. Like I've got the Nord 2 and the Nord. I mean, I don't have them now anymore. I returned them, but yeah, if you guys want to check it out, my Nord review is on Hot Hardware, and it'll give you a good idea of what to expect. But it's interesting to me, like there's so many parallels here. Like, of course, the Snapdragon versus MediaTek thing we've already addressed. I think it's super smart that they went from mid-range Snapdragon to, Dimensity flagship, right? But I think the other thing to keep in mind is there's a few corners cut and you can see it, but it's just very selectively and very well done. Like I'm looking at the specs right now and, plastic mid-frame, right? The original Nord was the same way. I was a little bummed by that, but I get it. And then, but they didn't sacrifice things like OIS on the main sensor, right? And there is also stereo speakers, which the original Nord did not have, by the way. And then they have still no headphone jack, but not surprising. But you have the alert slider, as you said. And the other thing, no wireless charging, but it never did, and it's never going to. So I think this is kind of like where they're making smart decisions at cutting the things that are really like, arguably not necessary. And then, things also like UFS 3.1 instead of UFS 4.0, right? It's a minor thing because it's a flagship chip, so it might make a difference. I'm not sure for storage. But the thing that I'm a little bummed about, which the original Nord had and no other BBK Group device has had ever since, I cannot believe this is the only phone that BBK ever gave us.
There's one
with
more, but
4K video recorder on the front camera. What's the other one?
The Find X6 Pro.
You're right. I don't have that, unfortunately, so I didn't know that.
No. So I'm totally with you. That was about the exact thing about when I looked at it. I said they captured the original OnePlus Nord's spirit and they built on it so much, but they left out that one function that they could definitely bring in because I'll say this. If Oppo can bring in 4K 60 recording on the front-facing camera on their flagship, it tells me that this is purely a software limitation that's been put in there. This is something that, obviously it's not going to have OIS. It's not going to be the same performance as the main sensor on the back. But for vlogging, for like still photography, you're able to set up, compose your actual scene and do everything. It could be a very functional option. And I'm not going to lie, I've recorded video with the Find X6 Pro's front-facing camera, and it's actually pretty good as long as you're not walking and just doing that straight-up vlog. Sit down, set up, and compose. It works. So I wish that was here, but when I look at the price point around $5 to $550, really, it's a hard deal to pass. Even with that feature missing, I feel like the main sensor on the back is still going to be the main champion. Oxygen OS 13.1 that also supports their new tablet connection with the OnePlus Pad.
Oh, cool, with the tab, yeah. Oh, pad.
Exactly. And all of those features that you get in there really make it so much of what OnePlus is about. That bang for the buck. And like I said, I think what you said, having them go from a mid-tier, because had they gone with the 7 Plus Gen 2, I think the price point would have been higher. It's much more newer of an SoC. Yes, it's mid-range, but the 9000 from last year is a smart way to go. They did it with their pad. It's working great here, and I think it's a great combination. MediaTek and OnePlus, they're definitely doing some great stuff.
And they did it with, Oppo's Find N2 Flip as well. And it worked out really well. I think that's the 9000 plus, but whatever. Let's not get picky here. I'm on board with that at all. I think the whole thing is a good, well-balanced product. I'm just a little disappointed with this front camera video recording thing, which they gave us. And it had dual front cameras on the original Nord, which, whatever. But there's not too many phones.
I think at the time they were trying to make it a big bang, kind of going out, making points and giving you features that weren't available. But I really feel like there isn't really no reason for this not to show up in the US. I don't know why we only get the N series in the US. I know it kind of blurs the line between, it used to, I'll say this, it used to blur the line between the standard OnePlus and the Pro.
Right.
If you're going to go to straight 11 and we're going to stick with straight numbers without pros, I feel like there's a space now that the Nord, the standard number series Nord, can jump straight into, and the market could just accept it. There's no longer that Pro and non-Pro feature. This could be the non-Pro where the other one is kind of like the Pro without the Pro title. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, look, I feel like, honestly, for me, the thing that I think the reason we're not seeing this in the US is the same reason that I've discussed on last week's podcast. It's like mid-range, there's no market for the mid-range here. I mean, you and I are the market. Like, my audience is the market, but it's not a big enough market to justify, because the majority of people, like, if even my audience, when I poll them, tell me, oh no, I ended up buying it because through the carrier as a flagship device, subsidized, because, I got a good deal. Like, after 2 years, they were giving me a great, like, upgrade plan. And, or, I'm on a family plan with my grandpa or whatever. Like, the point is, I get it. Like, and I don't want to shame people for making the right decisions for them. But until we all start buying our phones as terminals that are unlocked, that we own outright, the mid-range market here in North America especially, but also in the West in general, is not relevant and is not worthy. It's like, the Moto Razr Non-Plus that we saw in New York, like, what is it? 3 months ago?
We all saw,
and
we
it's
all got
not
hands
out
on.
yet. And I think, honestly, they're going to have a very hard time selling this, because even though it's going to be really affordable, I expect it's going to be something like $700. That's what we've all kind of, like, this is like me, kind of like, it's like wishful thinking, right?
It's a 7 Gen 1. I mean, it's primed to be that mid-range flip phone that we've never got.
But the point is, who's going to buy it when they can walk into a Verizon store? I mean, actually, Verizon's bad because the Razr Plus isn't sold there. But if you can walk into a carrier store and buy the Razr Plus for $5 a month or $10 a month, subsidized, why, even if you don't care about using apps on the front screen, on the cover screen, why would you, like, go down to a Razr when you can buy the Razr Plus? So that's kind of like, I'm really worried that we're stratifying the market even more now. And even though OnePlus, as you said, would be a good candidate, considering they don't have any carrier agreements anymore. They kind of lost that, right? Like, they gave it up for whatever reason.
Something happened. We no longer have the exclusive carrier, which in a weird way, I feel like it's a good thing for consumers, because you do get technically the product as it's originally made. They don't remove the screen protector. You do get the dual SIM version. Like, the things that we missed when we got the carrier versions. But yeah, that was just my thought. I mean, in a categorized, I guess, in a landscape, we had the T series last year that we started to see things disappear. This year, we lost the Pro entirely, so we no longer have a Pro. So OnePlus is primarily at the, and what, I mean, we're already in August, right? So we've gone the whole year with one series. If they release a T series, then it's a good thing. But I feel like the Nord, the full number Nord, is a step between the N series.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm just
but
not sure that they're seeing that, right? Like,
No.
and I think that the other problem I'm seeing here is that they do have, just for a little bit less money, the N series, right? And that is a carrier thing, right? So,
and it's still with T-Mobile, the N30, I want to say.
I think they're trying, somehow, I think what happened is they made a few faux pas in their design decision and their choices and their pricing, like with the 10 series of, the 10 Pro and even maybe the 9 series before that. And they lost the graces of the carriers. The carriers said, look, we love your product. Everybody loves your product, but you're not selling enough for us. Like, we cannot justify the shelf space, blah, blah, blah. And they lost T-Mobile at the high end. And also COVID, that helped make it worse, right? Like,
because people were buying things from their site. They weren't buying them directly from going into stores. We lost that footstep.
So they lost that, but then, they don't want to lose that N series now. So I think that's why they're afraid to even bring the Nord 3, even though in my mind, in your mind, it's a completely different thing. It's like slotting, like, right kind of like between the T series and the N series, right? And of course, who knows if we're going to get a T series. We talked last week with my guest about the OnePlus Ace 2 Pro, which is essentially the 11T. And I don't think we're going to see that. I actually think there's a major thing happening right now. You've heard the rumors that the OnePlus Open, I don't like that name, but the OnePlus Open is going to be shared with Oppo as a device that is supposedly almost identical.
I feel like, so those are the rumors we're hearing finally, that OnePlus, obviously, so OnePlus never had a foldable device, but Oppo's been releasing they're already 2 generations in to a foldable device with the N series. I don't know. The rumors are saying, OnePlus did obviously say they were going to be releasing it. I thought we would have already had it by now. They should have been out. They talked about it. They teased us about it at MWC earlier this year. And then,
so my question to you in this context is, do you think that we're going to see a Oppo takes Asia markets and OnePlus takes Western markets, and the phones are identical across the board.
Like, so you mean like they finally don't no longer try to, they'll just basically release the same hardware without changing minor things on the back?
I mean, there may be slight variations in RAM and storage, maybe slight variations in like, I don't know. But overall, yeah, essentially the same. Slight design changes, maybe.
Honestly, dropping the game, in my opinion, is a better way of doing it than trying to, because so for a little bit of I guess something that I've noticed a few years ago, the Pro series, the 9, the 10, and the 11, and the 11 all share the same display as Oppo's Find X series.
They have
I've used the same glass protector on both. And
camera sensors, there's so much there.
And then, of course, we saw Hasselblad come over to Oppo, and then we obviously got Oppo's Cloud OS now being the base of Oxygen OS. So the synergy is already so much that it seriously makes it less exhausting for them to have to create it. Obviously, minor changes between the two. There may be certain things available on one, maybe not the other, but I think for me, if this is the solution where Oppo basically focuses on the markets that they are strong enough in, since there was some, pullback a little bit in Europe, OnePlus goes in and covers the rest of it, at least in the US, we'll have some serious competition now when it comes to foldables.
I mean, look, we're just hypothesizing here. Like this is
no, absolutely.
Right,
but there's a lot of rumors going around.
This makes sense. My gut is Oppo is having all these patent issues in Europe right now, and OnePlus is kind of involved, but they could probably still save that brand if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I've never felt like Oppo was very popular in Europe. I could be wrong. I don't see them when I'm there. I see Xiaomi more.
I've seen Xiaomi's.
I see Vivo a little bit, but I see OnePlus. But
I do see OnePlus quite a bit.
So the question is, at that point, doesn't it make more sense to differentiate in design and differentiate in software, but deliver roughly the same devices? And then you can have Oppo focus on Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, like Japan, Korea, China, all of that. India even, of course. And then you can also have OnePlus in India. They can overlap a little bit. That's fine because the brands are both well established.
And then you can have Realme. You have to remember, Realme is also another, brand that kind of falls right between the two.
Realme is the new OnePlus, if you think about it in many ways.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're going to talk about them in a second, actually. But I think, for me, it's like, if OnePlus did focused on the Western markets where Apple and Samsung are strong and competed with those markets, on spec and on price and everything else, I think Oppo as a umbrella overall, overarching company would be better off. And
I think so.
I love the Oppo brand. I love their products, but I think until I can get a OnePlus phone that has the same specs as an Oppo Find X6 Pro, I'm not going to be satisfied, right?
That was the thing that got me this year. And the weird delineation between the two. The Find X6 Pro is light years ahead of what the 11 is. They used to be very close. They used to be very much akin to each other, right? The Pro towards the Pro, and it was basically just different markets slightly changed. This year was very polarizing because also the Find X6 Pro never made it out of China. It's a China-only release. So we're starting to see more companies focusing on releasing devices purely for their own home market. Xiaomi just released the Mix Fold 3. That's also released for China only. Honor's doing it a little bit different. They're releasing it in China first, trying to release it internationally. But what I've seen essentially is what I would love, like you said, is to see, let's say the 12 be slightly closer, a little bit more premium. I want to be able to get that 1-inch sensor on other devices. And hopefully 2024 will be that year. And I'm also really excited to see what the foldable is going to bring, regardless if it's the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not upset about this.
Yeah.
I'm not upset at all about this. I'm just more like
the beauty of what it does.
This whole Nord 3 conversation kind of brings us into kind of like a philosophical discussion about Oppo and BBK Group in a way, and
it's like a BBK conversation way more than just the Nord. Yeah,
exactly, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. But yeah, look, I felt like the 11 5G was a solid phone for me. The big miss, especially for our market with a lack of wireless charging, I don't think it would have added much to the price. They could have eaten that. And yes, it would have been tiny bit thicker, but whatever. I think it's fine. And that would have made it like a relevant product for this market where I could absolutely say without any reservations, this is competitive with, say, an S23, you know? But that's what they need to fix next year or this year, whenever the 12
We're
is
gonna have
coming.
to see. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I don't. Qualcomm is shifting the landscape
Yeah,
of
exactly.
releasing devices. So their move to October from December makes the latter part of like the Q4 of 2023 could be a very different game this year. It's
Yeah,
exciting to see what's gonna happen.
me too. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
see how it goes. But you know, overall, I agree with you. I know that it wouldn't be successful financially, but I think it would be nice to have the Nord 3 here. I
Always.
agree.
I want to give all of our viewers and all of our listeners the ability to make choices, educated choices, and give them, know that there are options, even if it's not made for the market. That's one of the reasons why I was excited to do the Nord 3 video, is because I wanted to show people that it works. Not only does it work, but it works great in our market. It wasn't designed for it, but MediaTek, with the dimensity optimizations they did with their modems and improvements, we could see the benefit of having what a flagship Dimensity can do in the U.S. market if it does come in. Right now, we're seeing it with Vivo, we're seeing it with OnePlus, and hopefully we'll see it with more devices and more companies carrying this. Yeah, for sure.
And we love some MediaTek here. So yeah,
Oh, yeah. No,
100%.
absolutely. Big
So
fans.
let's switch gear and talk about some news items. I'm actually going to pass Samsung and Apple and come back to it. But since we're
Okay.
on BBK group, like hardcore right now, I want to talk about
The
a related
BBK
thing
chat.
about this
Yeah.
folding phone, the phone that we think is going to be shared between the two companies.
I hope.
It's going to be
Yeah.
the Find N3 for Oppo and the OnePlus Open.
Find Ns.
Again, bad choice, I think, in my opinion. I think OnePlus should look at. I like the V Fold, but I understand they're trying to away from Fold because everybody's using Fold. I don't know. Anyway, so the display specs have rumoredly leaked, or
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, and it gives us a good idea of what form factor to expect, I think. So to me, the thing that really struck me, the most important thing here, I feel like, is the size of the cover screen. 6.31 inches at 2484 by 1116. So slightly bigger than 1080p.
Yeah.
So that tells me that
It's
at
a little
20
wider.
to 9, this is a passport type device.
It's feeding into somewhere between the N2 and what the Pixel Fold is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feel like that's the realm. If you have to kind of visualize it from the rumored images that we've seen, and I think even so, I'll say one thing. I am a fan of the foldables from Samsung. I've used them many times. I'm using currently right now the Fold 5, working on finishing my video review for that.
Right.
The main thing that I always got with that one is the external display has always been somewhat narrow. We didn't have that form that I felt like was conducive to stay in the external display longer during the day. You were somehow kind of, to get a better experience, you have to open it up.
Right.
The Find N series came in for the first and second generation and gave us a much more of a smaller, I would say, passport form factor. But it was amazing. It was one-handed experience on the external display.
Yep.
You could reach the entire display with your thumb, which made, and I'm saying that I have like really big hands, but it just, for me, a form factor that was more conducive to, using it. And then if you want the big display, you're greeted with that, I would say maybe even the Microsoft Duo type of a style experience. The displays mirror the experience of two smaller phones on the inside.
Yep.
OnePlus has a very good opportunity to bring that form factor to the US. It's different than Samsung. So when somebody goes in and says, I want to get a foldable, like, okay, those are the two options. And it's slightly closer to what Pixel's already done, and Pixel's had some good, received some good response. People like it. A lot of our friends are using it, and I feel like it's great to see what they can do. And of course, with the optimizations of Oxygen OS, that's what I'm excited for, because although Pixel is great and it has a lot of Material U features and new features in there, it's still kind of a combination of tablet UI and Pixel UI. Exactly. And I got a chance to play with it, and I had the Pixel tablet. What you're getting is a tablet and a phone together, but I think OnePlus can do it, and I'm hoping, crossing fingers here, that they do have video out, that they do not nix that feature out.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
just don't hold anything back. Give us everything we want. You get out the door really with a big bang. Make that bang that you want to make. And I think Oppo can do it, and I think OnePlus can carry that internationally, like we were talking.
100%. I've been using my Pixel Fold a lot and really enjoying it, except for sensor, of course, as usual. But look, I am kind of secretly hoping, and this is because I'm a fangirl. I'm a fangirl of OnePlus, okay? This is a reality. I'm a fangirl of BBK Group. I've been secretly hoping that this folding phone, especially if it's shared by the two, has zero compromise. It has everything and might be better than the two players in North America. Might be better than the Z Fold 5 and the Pixel Fold as well. Now, is it going to be better imaging-wise? Probably not, but it probably will come close if it's, Oppo has their finger in there.
I was going to say, if Oppo's camera processing is done in there, nothing against OnePlus, but I've always felt like Oppo had
a little more.
Yeah, a little bit more. Like I've always gotten better images if I had to compare like earlier generation. Obviously, this year with the 6 Pro with the Find X, it's like different things. But I'm really hoping that they bridge in Oppo's color science with the Hasselblad tuning that they have in there into that experience and make like you said, don't hold anything back. This is the time to make the splash. When you first get out the door, that first impression, you can never have that again. The moment you make it right.
So I'm kind of secretly hoping, not so secretly now that it's on the podcast, but I'm going to
say it's on the podcast.
Honestly, I would be very disappointed if they've cut a corner or if there's something that comes out of it and we're like, oh, I can't believe you did that kind of thing. Like I'm so impressed with the Pixel Fold cameras that it has to come close. And I'm so impressed with the form factor of the, previous Oppo Find N series and of the Pixel Fold as well, that I hope they don't mess that up. And I want wireless charging. If you don't have wireless charging on this thing, you have completely failed. If this is supposed to be the best thing you can do, it must have everything. It must have DDR5X. It must have UFS 4.0. It must have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. It must have the best OLEDs you can muster and the best hinge and thin. And I know I'm asking for it all, but I'm at this point, like at $1,800, which honestly, if they can even undercut that, it will be a premium
device. Yeah,
by $100,
they're not releasing
right?
a budget or even like a regular. No, this is a premium foldable device.
At that price, it doesn't matter. You just give us the whole enchilada. That's all I want. So let's see what happens because, this display spec is really no big deal to me. It's just more like, it's confirming what I'm kind of hoping for, which is the form factor is right. Yeah. Now, speaking of BBK Group and, BBK's little OnePlus replacement.
Welcome back to the BBK podcast.
That's right.
It's going into that.
Realme GT 5 teaser. So we all love ourselves a Realme phone, and we particularly love ourselves a GT flagship. And we particularly love when it does 240-watt charging. And we particularly love when we can adjust the clock speed on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on the 3 different types of cores. What are you talking about? This is insane. Do you need this? Absolutely not. Is it cool? Absolutely. What's your take on this?
No, for sure. No, so we got a chance to see the 240-watt charging back at MWC. That was their biggest announcement with the I think was it the GT3 at the time.
Correct. Yeah, they skipped 4 because China.
Yeah, always. So the biggest thing, and you'll notice that some of the rumors that we've seen here is that the aesthetic looks pretty much similar to the 3 with the design, with the LEDs and the customization. I'll say the charging speed, although limited internationally, it's not going to be available in the US. It's still crazy fast. During Barcelona, I had the chance to test it out, and I kept charging, and I'm like, this is crazy. This should not exist. But the ability of customizing your clock speed, like this is. Okay, I'll say this. This is bringing back modern XDA level nerdy shit on my side that I haven't had for years. Because that's what we used to do to our devices. We used to install custom kernels with governors in there to be able to change the speeds of our processor to overclock it or undervolt it just to be able to save battery and get longer battery life because the default settings were not right or were just not tuned correctly. So this is exciting. I hope they do it correctly and it's done. They're like, maybe you can set certain profiles as we have done in the past as well. With
that would be super cool.
It's like, I want Genshin Impact to go full bore, but I don't want my email to consume, 3.2 gigahertz on the Prime core because I'm opening a few emails after each other. So for sure. I think this is a win. It's going to come down to software, obviously, since a lot of this is going to be controlled by software. And I'm hoping Realme can land it. And I'm hoping also, honestly, more availability for it. The 3 didn't have a very large release. I think it was mostly in Europe. I hopefully will be able to see in more areas. And while we're saying this, I do want to say congratulations to Realme for the 5 years anniversary.
Yeah,
we just recently
good
passed
call.
that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And our friend, our obviously Tanya, you know who you are. Hope you're doing great. Thank you very much for all of the love and support that you've had with us for years. And I cannot wait to see what the new Realme can do.
Me too. Tanya is awesome and has been hooking us up with all devices. Thank you, Tanya. 24 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage on this, a dedicated X7 Pixelworks processor for, display, basically quality of the display, for video watching and stuff.
Top. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. I just feel like this is very gamer-ish. Like, I never thought of the GT3, the previous one, as a gaming phone, but they're definitely dipping into gaming territory. Yet, it's not a gaming phone because it doesn't have toggles or, what am I talking about? Shoulder buttons. I don't think it does. Maybe it does. Maybe they'll surprise us.
So the GT, the Gran Torino, I'm assuming GT is Gran Turismo. So that's to me, when I think GT, they've always carried that racing stripe on the back. They've always showcased their fastest technology in those devices. So if we look at them, although it may not be gaming centric, a lot of it is basically about the speed, about the performance, and they push their devices with this series. So the GT series is meant for speed, and I think gaming is great. Very few companies are still making like a specific gamings, like Red Magic. Obviously, we have ROG, and then we also have, I think, the F series from Poco that came out early this year, I think, or last year. But still, I think it's still a champ, and I love the customizations that we can do on the back. I'm hoping all of that carries over again with the tones, with the LEDs, and all of that. That was actually kind of nice around the chip in the back, where you could kind of see
that was
the Qualcomm
cool.
chip in the back. That was cool.
Yeah. So I think this is exciting. Kind of overkill, but I'll take it. I love the idea that I could run this thing underclocked all day long, because for what I'm doing most of the time, that makes no difference. And then if I really want to, as you said, Genshin Impact, bang, just kick it off.
Or if you want to start rendering some content, making any kind of TikTok, Reels, or whatever, and you're jumping into CapCut or LumaFusion, you can definitely push. The Agent. Okay, so first they're going with a really good chipset. The Agent 2 has been performing amazingly.
It's amazing.
In all of the different variations that it's available. It's been great. So I think it's the right chipset to go. Power performance is really good. So, and having a governor on top of that, like no other companies can actually claim that. Saying, hey, I can underclock my processor and get better battery life. Still gets the benefit of the TSMC and all of the benefits of the 4nm processing. So it's really good.
Indeed. Switching gears to Vivo, who is kind of like, I always call him like the problem child, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that as in like, they're the only ones at BBK that are really doing their own thing. Like there is a bit of crossover, but like overall, like Vivo has definitely got their own flavor going and doesn't share quite as much with the Oppo and, Realme. I don't even know how Realme is not part of Oppo yet. Like, it's so similar. Everything is definitely the same parts, right?
Color OS and Realme OS is basically a copy. They're not even. But
Vivo is just like kind of doing their own thing. So we know there's a Vivo X100 coming. That means we're going to have a Pro Plus and a Pro, and who knows what they're going to do this year. But now leaks are coming out, and one of the leaks here says that in addition to the same 50 megapixel IMX989, the 1-inch sensor, that the
gold standard. I was going to say exactly. Right? Yeah, angels all over the place.
Exactly. It will have a variable aperture from f over 1.4 to f over 4.0 OMG, and it will have a 200 megapixel telephoto.
I saw that in the spec, and I'm like, 200.
Well,
my only thing at that point, I'll say this is, first and foremost, the combination, whichever they end up doing, I'm hoping they stick to the plan they did with the X90 series.
Yes.
They go with the MediaTek flagship on the X90 Pro, the X90 and the X90 Pro, and then X90 Pro Plus. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I hope that continues over. Obviously, some of the leaks are also talking about a future gen processor that hasn't been officially even announced yet. So we haven't even seen that SoC. But to go super, like, I mean, this is going to make it like really crazy specs, really out there, 200 megapixel camera sensor in there. And more than likely, this is where I feel like they're going to try to do, when you said the whole crossover, going back to Realme, because we'd have to gotta keep calling Realme, the last device we saw from Realme was using that 200 megapixel camera sensor to use
with OIS,
with OIS
I know,
to be able to do that zoom level without having a zoom lens. So they were doing pixel cropping on that. So that could potentially be
so you could do
the proof of the
2x
pudding
cropping
kind of
and 4x cropping. This was the Realme 11 Pro Plus, which is a really nice little mid-range phone that definitely does not have a mid-range camera, basically.
No, absolutely. And I feel like that was kind of like the testing ground for what Vivo, if that's true, that could be the lead up to it. And I think that's actually a good experience that we could definitely benefit from.
Yeah, what's interesting to me here is, here's my theory, right? So right now there's 4 cameras on the Vivo X series flagships, and they have, the main, the ultra wide, then there's a portrait, which is essentially a 2x telephoto optimized with that 50 millimeter focal length of, the nice creamy bokeh, natural bokeh. You don't have to do any processing. And then you got the telephoto, right? And so what if all these sensors are 50 megapixel, but the telephoto is 200, and now they have a 3x telephoto or even 5x, and now they let us do 2x cropping or 4x cropping on that 200 megapixel of the telephoto to achieve like 30x, essentially lossless zoom. That's, I think, where they're going.
I think it's a good combination. They are known for being at the forefront of camera experiments. Vivo, I mean, I'll say this. Oppo has a really good, solid camera performance experience in ColorOS. They've done it year over year with whatever sensor they're going with. But Vivo likes to create that. They always like to push limits beyond anybody else. We saw the 1-inch sensor from them on the X90 Pro and the Pro Plus come out internationally before other people. So keep in mind, like we had a. It's a really good combination. I really like what Vivo does, and I'm hoping they land it. That it's as an experiment, what we saw with Realme carries over very well, like you said.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I didn't get the X90 Pro Plus. I played briefly with the X90 Pro because MediaTek had it at CS. For us, our friend Brad. Let's talk about Samsung and Apple rumors real quick because, these are interesting to me. I kind of pick and choose them. I'm not big on the Samsung and Apple rumors because, whatever, But this is interesting because the S24 Ultra is supposed to switch to a flat screen instead of, what is traditionally been, look, I'm a fan of a flat screen, but I kind of feel like the Ultra, the Note essentially should have it's a design staple at this point.
Exactly.
Like, even if it's just mildly curved, it should be curved. And I'm kind of like, what are you doing? And I don't buy these rumors of the bezels here. Like, there's no way they're going to have bezels this big on a phone. That's that premium. This is Samsung. They I don't know. Like, I think
it's a hard sell for me. I'll say this. I know there's the flat screen camp that always loves having devices released with flat screens. Specifically, taking it back to the first phone we talked about on this podcast, the N3 has a flat screen. People love that, and it is great for gaming. I'll say that specifically for gamers because of the edges and the false touches, and you have much more precise focus on it. But you're right. At the ultra level, it is hard for us to see Samsung step back on that staple look.
It's such a big phone. You need it to be narrower in your hand.
And it helps with the actual bezels because when you curve the display, it creates a much smaller imprint of it. It almost makes them disappear. We saw Honor do the same thing with the Magic 5 Pro. They did a quad curve display just to give you that almost no bezel look on there. And I feel like, at the Ultra, it's about the feel in the hand, the look of the device. Yeah, the performance is obviously going to be there, but I don't know. It's tough. I know that probably 24 Plus could more than likely be flat. And maybe that's where the rumors kind of
they're mixing up the rumors.
They're trying to create something in there, and I'm hoping Samsung, if you're listening, please stay on that recipe. It works.
I honestly, I'm going to tell you this. This is something I don't think I've told anyone on the podcast yet. This is me coming out as saying that the S23 Ultra is my absolute favorite phone design in the whole entire world. I love the aesthetics of that phone. Like I love the cameras. I love the super squarish corners, the flat top.
It's the S series and the Note series combination
It is
marriage
like
there.
the clear refinement of a decade of refinement, iteration, and the build quality, the materials, absolutely zero compromise. I love me an iPhone, and Apple does a very good job, but I hate the rounded corners. They're so rounded, like it just doesn't appeal to me. And it's why I'm kind of bummed about the Pixel 8 Pro going to these rounded corners. I like that my Pixel 7 Pro is square. And like, why can't we have like to me, another phone that is not really 100% as good to me as the S Ultra, but is close. It's not quite there because it's a gaming phone. Is the Red Magic 8 Pro series, 8S Pro. Like that is like so little bezel, all screen, perfectly rectangular. It's like you're maximizing screen in your hand. And it looks like the freaking future. Like you put that phone in front of somebody and they're like that, is that the tablet from like, a TV show? You're like, yes, it is, And that's kind of why I'm like, why would you go backwards from there? To compete with Apple, who's doing the rounded corner forever and it's boring as hell? Like,
I don't know. I'm obviously we're still. I know I'm going to say we're quite away. We're probably very close to the Pixel line coming out. Actually, September is around the corner.
Yeah, we're very close.
Very close, and it's the design language. I think a lot of companies try to experiment. I'm really hoping that this does not stick, but we'll have to see how people receive it. Do they find it appealing? I personally, I have an iPhone. I stuck to the 13 Pro, 13 Pro Max. I think was it Pro? I forget the higher end model.
You don't even know what you have.
Well, because there's also rumors, with the whole naming convention.
This is how
on the
boring
15,
iPhones are, folks. We don't even
don't know which
as
one
tech reviewers what iPhone we have.
Like, was it? It's the 13 Pro. Yeah, it's the largest one they had from last year, the year before, and I say that obviously it's not the 14, but the reason why I chose to stay with that was because of the eSIM and what they did with the 14. So there's some things there.
Yeah,
we're starting to see more other companies start focusing on eSIM experience. But look, the Pixel is known for being a Pixel because of the way the design is on the back. Like you can spot a Pixel from across. The Geordie LaForge kind of Star Trek kind of thing going on. Yeah, absolutely. Stick with it. I've seen more Pixels in the last couple of years than I've ever seen in my life.
Me too, and a lot of it because we can recognize them easier.
Exactly, we can finally know what they are. They need to stick to the design language and what they make them unique. I feel like if copying that specific feature, I don't feel like that's why Apple sells more iPhones. iPhones sell because people love iPhones. They love the ecosystem. They like what they have, and they want to continue that relationship with Apple. They don't buy and they're going to switch over to a Pixel because of that specific feature. Focus on what makes your device better and keep it unique. Keep it stand out. It stands out on its own. Don't try to copy these aesthetics. So we'll have to see. If the rumors are true and that's what the 8 Pro is going to be, then we'll have to see how it feels, sadly, in the hand, because obviously at the end of the day, it's going to be usability. Does it make it better for us?
But to kind of second your case here, to agree with you here, like you look at the S23 and 23 Plus and the leaks we've seen of S24 non-Ultra, and it's like, it looks like an iPhone. Like, why, Samsung? You had that awesome identity with that camera pod that merged and melded into the display, the rail, And like, why did you have to abandon that? That was so hot. That was so you. And now you're like looks like an iPhone. Like seriously, like get a life. Like,
I don't know if they have some research or there may be some data that says people want to buy a phone that kind of looks like an iPhone, but they're okay if it's not an iPhone as long as it kind of looks like it. People buy an iPhone because
if you're Infinix, I understand you want to do that, but if you're Samsung, come on, define your own identity.
I'm just happy the island did not cross over yet, and I'm hoping it doesn't cross over because it's not something. The lonely island for me on an Android, like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, there is that for sure. But speaking of the iPhone, this is just a rumor or leak or whatever of a name. I think it's a rumor of a naming thing. And I'm actually the reason that I'm bringing this up is only because of the naming. This is a rumor that the Pro Max will be called Ultra. At last, finally.
Pro Max Ultra 5G, extra special, all that good stuff.
Apple just messes up naming conventions so badly. Like, overall, they're pretty good, right? They're very generally, most of the lines of products have 2 or 3 products, 4 products at most. And it's easy to understand the lineup. But I never understood why they went Pro Max. Like, Pro Plus would have made sense because they do have an iPhone 14 Plus, right?
They finally, they did that. They brought in the 14 Plus and to separate the lines. But yeah.
So why, like, who thought up Max? Like, who does that? Like, Ultra, of course you call it Ultra. It's the best phone you make. So
it's the ultimate,
14,
it's exactly
14 Plus, 15, 15 Plus, that makes sense. And then you're going to have 15 Pro and 15 Ultra. Perfect. And this is one of the little stuff that I get excited about. Like, there's nothing here that's technical. There's nothing here that's spec. There's nothing here. I'm sure half the audience is rolling their eyes right now. But hear me out. Apple has to call this phone 15 Ultra. They do. That's all.
I think I think the product has to be described correctly so you understand the class that you're moving into. It's the largest display, largest battery, the best optics. Everything on the Ultra or the Pro Max is supposed to represent the best of what Apple is able to provide you or give you for that year, for that calendar year that they're trying to shoot for. Pro Max, I think initially when I first heard it, I honestly thought it was because they wanted people to realize that it's a class. And then this year, the 14 obviously series, they separated that class by giving us a large display regular version by giving it the Plus. That part I was excited for because I was like, finally, give us a standard Plus, because some people don't want to step up to the $1,500, $1,200, $1,500 phone version. They want to get a larger display at an affordable price. But the names, the lineup, and I'm also hoping that they do continue carrying some of the devices for next year. I'm worried a little bit about the smallest iPhone, but obviously it's away from the rumor here because technically we didn't get a small iPhone last year. They carried the one from the year before.
No, but they've done 2 years. Like they do 2 year. Lately, they've been doing 2 years. So we got the iPhone SE original. Then many years went by. Then we got the SE2. Then 2 years went by. SE3. I expect this is the year coming up.
So we should be able to see a baby
SE3 or 4.
4. Yeah, and hopefully that one will start looking more. And
supposedly this is going to be, OLED, notch, no more home button, all that stuff. So let's find out. There are actually rumors around that. I didn't include them in the show. Let's talk about some lesser known brands. But before we do, I want to quickly mention, this is a PSA for those of you who love a small flagship. Asus's Zenfone 10 pre-orders are live in the US. I love the Zenfone, absolutely love it. I don't have a 10. I should probably get one. I'm just swamped with other things. Yeah. But man, if you want a flagship phone and they fix one of the things that was missing, which was wireless charging. So now you have it all. Headphone jack, wireless charging, NFC, good camera system with a gimbal, good processor, good display in a small package. Zenfone 10. Go buy it, $699. Awesome phone. From everything I've heard.
When I wasn't aware that it finally made it to our side, that we've always been on the back end for when it comes down to the Zenfone by the time it makes it here. Even with the ROG, they release internationally always much faster than us, but I'm glad to see that. For sure, if you're a fan, especially a headphone jack that does sound good, this is a good phone.
I mean, you get everything in a small package. It's in a small package. I love that Asus has found its little niche where they're doing the best. Kind of feel like Sony to me. It's like, we're just not going to compromise. I love phones where just screw you. We're doing this right. We don't care what you say. We don't care how many we sell. We're just going to do this. Like, I want more companies that make a lot of money on other products to do that for their phones. Sony, Asus, others. Like, listen, LG should have done this. LG could have continued to lose money on their mobile business from all the washers and dryers and fridges and TVs and AC units that they sell, okay? To just give us 2 phones a year. Like a really good mid-range and a really good flagship, and forget all the stylos and all their carrier stuff. Like, you could have done it. You could have given us folding phone, rollable phones, but no, you suck. You should have. Oh, I'm so upset about this.
No, I know. I know exactly what you mean. It's a tough. It's hard. It's hard, and especially when we go to like when we're going to Korea and seeing LG and then LG U Plus, and there's still like presence there and all of that, and then just like, oh man, where's the mobile device department? Kind of so yeah, for sure. Hopefully we'll have to see. We'll have to see, but I'm really hoping for a good response on the Zenfone 10. I think ASUS is definitely has a winner on their hand, and they've captured the small form factor, that Android device that can do everything, but it's just for people that want a smaller phone.
Exactly. HTC I can understand. Like they didn't have anything to support their business. Like they had to kind of like say, okay, we're throwing in the towel. But like LG, come on. Like seriously, of all the people, like I don't even expect ASUS. ASUS is probably the least well positioned to make a niche product like this. Okay, and then Sony, they have deep pockets. Of course, they can do this forever, and I hope they do. I really hope they do.
I really hope for the 5 series, yeah, the Xperia 5 Mark 5
Yeah,
for
Mark
this year,
Five.
because we haven't heard anything about that. No rumors and no talk. Obviously, we have indications what it is going to be, but the one Mark 5 has been doing great, available for sale. Everybody can pick it up now. So yeah, we're still waiting for the smaller form factor, which typically comes later in the year. So
Yeah,
hopefully
but
we're pretty
it's a
close.
little late now because they
A little
usually
bit.
announce it before this. Speaking of which, I was going to say, I now have the buds, the WF-1000 XM5, so I will
Good.
let you know on the show what I think of them. You know I'm a bit of an audiophile, even though I don't like using that word. So I've always been a big fan of their best earbuds. I use their best headphones all the time. The only thing I've always found with their highest end earbuds was that they're big, bulky, and heavy, and they don't fit my ears very well. So hopefully, finally, they've resolved this because
Okay.
I've actually been using the Link Buds S a lot more because they come very close in sound quality, great noise reduction, great battery life, and they fit me and they are comfortable to wear. So if it can beat my Link Buds S in terms of comfort or match it, stay tuned for another podcast on that. And I want to thank Jen for sending me a device real quick. That was really nice. Speaking of kind of unknown brands, well, unknown not for you and me, but I think for a lot of folks in the West, Infinix and Techno, which are six sister brands,
Sister
keep
brands, yeah.
sending me their awesome phones. They sent me the GT10 gaming phone that has like the Nothing Phone 2 kind of like back, the LED game show thing. Expect an unboxing video on this alongside with a phone that is, leaking right now. I have it, but I can't tell you anything about it other than there are leaks. And, Infinix makes every year a kind of what they consider their flagship, and this is it.
Okay.
And based on those leaks, honestly, my phone is still in the box, so I don't really know anything more than these leaks. It is pretty impressive. It has 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, IP53 rating. Usually these phones don't have a rating. 50 megapixels camera with OIS. This is again according to the leaks. 144 hertz display AMOLED.
Okay.
I mean,
Wow.
it's got the whole shebang. I don't know what processor this is running. I think it's some kind of MediaTek Dimensity. I want to say maybe an 8000 series of some kind is what I'm guessing.
Okay. I want to say in the devices that I've had a chance to play with, I've seen them with Helio processors, but it's typically a MediaTek processor.
No. This is the Zero series. This is a 5G, so we know it's not going to be a Helio, and I don't think it's going to be a Qualcomm. So
Okay.
and I don't think it's going to be because this is the last one, the 020 or whatever, the previous model. I think it had like a pretty high end Dimensity in there.
Okay. Okay.
Like we're not talking 9,000. I don't think it's going to be a 9,000. But I wouldn't be
still,
surprised
though,
if it's 7,000 or 8,000.
from what you were saying, as far as the just the refresh rate, the storage, and all of that, it definitely specs up to be more of their high end, their top of the line, but still trying to keep into the Infinix brand. Because the Infinix, for me, the way I always looked at them, obviously they're not designed for the U.S. market, but I love the fact that they support Lebanon, my home country, of all places. Like it's specifically designed for that market. So from an overall performance, I've always felt that they were more of on the budget side and more kind of bang for the buck type of experience. You get more, you get everything in the box, including the charger, the case, everything that you wanted. I wouldn't be obviously expecting anything less from them, and it's always nice to hear that they're coming up with their I guess their next 24 months or 12 months of flagship processing experience there. So it sounds like it's pretty good. Some of the images I've seen looks like some of them may even have leather. So that's going to be very interesting
mine
to see.
does not. I think the one they sent me is that gold one. But look, the reality is this. They just launched their GT gaming phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you are curious about this phone, what I can tell you as a hint is look at the specs of that gaming phone. Make them less gamey and more flagshipy, like in the sense that, like you gain things like OIS or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I wouldn't even be surprised if the chassis is the same. Like they are very, very close aesthetically. In terms of port layout and everything. It's like you can see here that, cosmetically, they're very different. Obviously, there's no LED strips in the back and stuff. But I think that this is kind of why they're coming out like a week apart or something, or 2 weeks apart, or, like the GT just came out, and I think this is coming out on the 28th. So, there you go.
Oh, crap.
But look,
Monday.
yeah, I want to give them props because they have improved steadily. Like they've gone from really kind of budget, as you said, Helio based phones. And now we're like, the Zero series started really kicking things up a notch like 2 years ago. I got the Zero last 2 summers ago. I remember COVID was just kind of starting to we had vaccines. We were starting to travel. I went to New York City for something. And I remember using it in Central Park, and I was like, wow, this camera system is really good. It had OIS and everything. It was really solid. OLED display. I was really impressed. And then I was like, oh, they can make something at least like premium mid-range-ish. And this is, I think, what we're looking at here. There's no flagship here in the sense of like competing with what we're used to, but it's definitely flagship for them. And it's definitely, I would say, like Nord 3. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at here, right?
I love to be able to see, again, devices trying to give you that experience, the benefits of the years of pure, the high-end performance, but at a more of a mid-range experience. You save money and you still get to enjoy the content. So for sure. Infinix is very well known. Again, I think in Italy even too, they have a
really interesting
lot of good following in Italy. Yeah, for sure.
But Africa, India, developing markets like that, I think they're very popular. Last thing is a Sony thing, since we just talked about Sony. I mean, I just have to mention it because hey, look, disclaimer, I used to work for Sony Computer Entertainment of America as a video game developer. Sony will always have a soft spot in my heart for video games. Don't get me wrong, I also code on an Xbox and on a Nintendo products, and I love them all, but I am a little closer in my heart to Sony. And so the PlayStation products, like I worked on Vita, I worked on PS3 and PS4. Oh, wow. I worked on, on the development part of it. Not because I also worked as a video game developer for studios on their, PS2 all the way back to PS2 and PSP as well. But I actually was involved in some of the early days of some of these platforms. And so this is exciting. This is interesting. I'm not sure. It's definitely not for me, but they made basically a $200 remote play device
accessory
that lets
for
you
their PlayStation.
Play games on your PS5 remotely. And it looks very hot. It's obviously got a beautiful OLED panel here. I assume that's OLED. It's LCD. Wow.
Okay.
Interesting, because all the PS Vita and PSP were OLED,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could explain how they were keeping it around the $200 price.
$200 mark. Yeah. But it's basically looks like, it's got controllers and tablet in the middle. It's very thin, very, very sexy looking. And it's got, of course, the PlayStation style controllers. And I suppose it's like very highly ecosystem integrated. I bet you the moment you fire this up, it'll find your PlayStation 5 at home and you'll be able to stream all your titles. It does Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, but does it support like 5G or anything like that? I guess you'll have to tether your phone, huh?
I was going to say, for the $200 price, I find it hard for it to be able to have this 5G modem, but I would probably also assume that it needs a really good, solid internet connection, both at home and wherever you are, to make sure that the
5
connection...
megabits per second, it says here.
Wow, that's actually pretty
minimum.
low.
15 recommended.
Okay, that's kind of pushing it. Yeah, I mean, it's not as high as what's it called, NVIDIA GeForce Now, kind of going into 24. But I think overall it should still be able to handle general gaming with the small form factor. Obviously, it's not going to be running 4K. The resolution's much lower than what you're able to, so the stream doesn't have to be as high. So that makes kind of sense. Hopefully, the battery life is pretty decent on that type of experience.
Well, it's a 60 hertz display. It's 1080p. Should be okay. Has a headphone jack and USB-C charging port. And you know what? No specs on the battery on this, but it doesn't have much processing to do, right?
No.
It doesn't look like the handles are detachable, which obviously I just didn't expect them to be detachable to play, but to store, right? To store it away.
Well,
but it doesn't look like it. So it's a cool looking industrial design, though. I kind of dig it. Interesting.
I'm hoping the frame is as strong as it needs to be to make sure that it lasts.
Well, if they made it out of aluminum, like, the same grade of aluminum that the Z Fold and Z Flip are made of, that stuff, basically, airplane grade aluminum is going to be fine. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, that's it. That's the news, folks. That's basically the show. I'm really stoked that we talked about the Nord 3.
Yeah.
And TK, you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, your various social media handles, what you're working on, your YouTube, all that good stuff, please.
So first thing I'll say is just look for TK Bay, and I'll say always let the beard guide you. I'm obviously on YouTube, TK Bay, Arabic as Tariq Bay, if you want to follow me on the Arabic channel. Of course, TKDSL8655 on the socials. It's not the easy name, but I couldn't get TK Bay. Right now, I'm finishing my review on both the Z Flip 5 and the Z Fold 5. Two devices that I have had the really, really lucky opportunity to be able to be hands-on since the launch in Korea, and I've been able to basically shape my opinions of that. A lot of things surprised me about this device that I wasn't ready for, because initially when you look at them, you think the 4 and the 5 are similar, but there'll be some surprises in the Z Fold 5 video, so hopefully that's going to be coming out soon. Should have this on that end. But otherwise, hopefully I'll get a chance to hang out with you again in the very, very near future.
Well, we'll see you later today. That's the exciting part.
That's the other exciting part.
Folks, please subscribe to TK's YouTube channel and follow him on all the social. You know where to find me. I'm at Tankgirl. That's TNKGRL on most of the socials. It's like the comic book character. Just drop all the vowels and you get Tankgirl, the comic book. Just drop them and you get my handle. I'm that on Twitter/X. I'm that on Instagram. I'm that on Blue Sky. I'm that on Threads. And so if you want to see pretty pictures of phones and cars and, food and travel, check out Instagram. And actually, I tend to post the photos on pretty much everything. Of course, on Facebook, you can find me there as well if you want. LinkedIn, if you're really adventurous. So I'm everywhere. Follow me if you want. And then more importantly, the podcast, you should subscribe to it. mobiletechpodcast.com. There's an RSS feed there. We're on all the big platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Amazon Podcasts, you name it, we're there. And so please subscribe and tell your friends. And then, if you want to see me brandish phones like I did earlier with the Pixel Fold and see us on video, there is a Patreon you can join that gets you a video version of the podcast in advance, a couple of days ahead. You get to see our faces and our facial expressions, and sometimes you show phones. Also, we'll include some bloopers sometimes, a little bit more raw, less edited, more like you were there experiencing it.
Yeah.
And so if you want to support me, consider Patreon, patreon.com/Tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. There's other perks there, including access to the Discord. And, if you can help, please do. Also, if you don't want to use Patreon and you want to just help me out, there is a PayPal link in the show notes. I put all the links to all the topics we discuss in the show notes on the web. And if your podcast app lets you see show notes as well, and then click through there, give me a $5 for a coffee or something, that would also help. So consider Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And I want to thank you, TK, for being my guest yet again. I really appreciate you coming in and talking Nord 3 with me.
Always. And I always appreciate how nice and personal that you are, and you are an amazing person. Of all the years I've known you, like seriously, the most genuine, open-hearted, and warm person to ever meet. And I can't wait to give you a big hug later today. I know we're going to see each other later, so I really missed that. And yeah, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, TK, thanks so much. Very kind. I'm looking forward to seeing you later. We will have you on the show again at some point in the future. And folks, we will have a show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.